Housing within town cores comprises three basic types. Over the shop, shown here, with single or multiple dwellings above ground floor. Compact urban, generally two-storey terraced typology. And large urban, which may or not be terraced and can be 2 or 3 storey with gardens, lane or mews access, a rear access and sometimes a mews. These and a further 4 outlying typologies, including compact suburban, low-density suburban, villa and urban generated housing, were identified and recorded in the 4 study towns. The impact made by the unchecked development of housing can be seen in these drawings, which show housing by type in the 4 study towns. Town cores have become surrounded by low-density suburbs, shaded purple here, which are greater in area than the cores themselves. The drawings also show that very few people now live on main or secondary town streets. It's the turquoise colour here shows over the shop typology, and you can see there's very few left in the 4 towns. Reasons for this change may be linked to desire for more space for the car and garden, and concerns for lack of safety of the street as a play space. As Ireland becomes an increasingly privatised society, so too does its relationship with domestic space. But privatisation comes at a price. Plans of 6 of the housing typologies in the study towns were surveyed and recorded. Total built area, site coverage percentage and plot ratio were calculated. Comparative analysis reveals that while compact urban, large urban and compact suburban typologies are quite land efficient, with plot ratios in the order of 1:1 and site coverage averaging about 50%, low-density suburban dwellings exhibit site coverage figures in the order of 10% and plot ratios less than 0.1:1. A glance at the comparative plans drawn to the same scale here shows this point. So you'll see the dwellings in the top 3 rows are quite land efficient, and they're the town core and large urban typologies, and then the suburban and out of urban typologies on the bottom show you just how much land those housing typologies actually use. The result of 15 years of such careless planning has left deep physical and social scars and spread housing and the services it requires out over the extended landscape. There's been little debate as yet about how to deal with the existing oversupply of suburban housing or how we might better plan for future housing when the need arises. Planning policy is a powerful force in shaping the space of our society. Development plans may say one thing in their objectives, but could risk enacting another through overzoning of suburban and extra-urban land. At the same time, an inflexible approach to conservation of existing town cores can further restrict potential for their reuse. Westport has awarded its town core special conservation area status, and Ross is considering the same strategy. In attempting to protect town cores, restrictive approaches in development plans may stunt their ability to adapt to the changing needs of society. There's now time to reflect on the effect of mass suburbanisation of rural towns and accompanying vacation of their cores. Land-hungry monofunctional suburbs feed into a pattern of car-dependent commuting, leaving little time or space for the ritual or the story to evolve. Work, leisure and education operate at nodes, separated by vehicular journeys, isolated from the casual meeting. The distinction between the urban and rural has no meaning in this context. Everything is generic. House, school, shop, workplace, it all can become pretty much the same, whether it's in Portlaoise, Cashel, Ennis or Newbridge. An alternative position, stemming from a recognition of the value of variety and accommodation of the space of the rural town community, is to reactivate the street as a place of dwelling and hence of workplace and amenity. As a prompt for thinking about how dwelling might return to the street, a proposal is made here for the reoccupation of the space of the streets and their enclosing blocks. Long-term vacant space within the town is identified and quarried out, and new plots are identified which relate to original plot width. This space may be the full height of the plot or confined to stories above ground floor. A plan for the centre of the block is made to include car parking space with designated entry points. The remaining space is preserved as car-free for garden, play space, market and allotments. Public pedestrian connections through the block are maintained and new ones are added. Over time, new dwellings, which have their roots in the large urban typology shown earlier, are grafted onto the existing vacant plots. When this method is applied to one sample block in Westport, bounded by Bridge Street, Shop Street, James Street and the Mall, 32 new dwellings are inserted into the existing vacant space of the block. The homes are large, ranging from 120 square metres to 300 square metres in area. They're all entered on the ground floor, with a ground level garden as well as upper level terraces. They can combine working and living space and overlook both the street and the shared garden space at the centre of the block. It's estimated that this strategy could be applied to on average 5 blocks within the 4 towns that I studied. That would mean 150 new families could have the opportunity to live in the centre of each town, close to public amenities, bringing new encounters, new stories and new life to the space of the street. To conclude, this paper seeks to highlight the importance of the street in the rural town as the rich framework on which the life of the town, combining its heritage and traditions, are made explicit, but also on its future dreams and aspirations, on which its future dreams and aspirations depend. If streets empty out and stagnate, if buildings are left vacant, then very quickly the life of the town empties out with it. This scenario, which was hastened by the rapid growth of the car-dependent suburbs in the last 15 years, is today compounded by economic recession and over-regulation. The current lull in building is the time to recast our ambitions for rural towns. A call for an alternative approach to the inhabitation of town cores is made here, through the reoccupation of the street and the reintroduction of dwelling as the central main street function that it once was. An imaginative approach to planning, premised on the careful but open reuse of the existing, is called for. Housetown is proposed as an alternative strategy to car-bound, out-of-town living, one in which the best qualities of the town, proximity to neighbours and public open space, visible and layered occupation of the upper stories in the space of the town, make sense of the collective and shared identity of rural town living. Thank you.